We'll go to Kriya Yoga first only because now this is we can build on this. So you are a Kriya Yoga practitioner primarily, and is that how you got initiated into yoga?
Not really, even though my entry into yoga back in 2008, and I was 23, I think, was because of a book, because of Autobiography of a Yogi. I was very, very fascinated by the book. The possibilities that were mentioned in the book seemed literally out of this world. So, what is a little more esoteric, you may say, in people to really understand, but at the same time very fascinating. That was my first introduction to Kriya Yoga, or even the immortal Babaji. There are many stories that are there. Sometimes you don't know what is real and what is not, but that was my start.
Hello, everybody. Alicia, welcome to Raw and Unfiltered podcast. This is Raw and Unfiltered, and we had a very interesting breakthrough just before uh, we're starting this. Is that we both were, not to go into too much details, but we both were in the same cave meditating. That's how we met before, and I didn't know it was her, and now we know each other through the ascended master sitting behind her, Babaji, who's the initiator of Kriya Yoga. So you are we'll go to Kriya Yoga first only because now this is we can build on this. So you are a Kriya Yoga practitioner primarily, and is that how you got initiated into yoga?
Not really, even though my entry into yoga back in 2008, when I was 23, I think, was because of a book, because of Autobiography of a Yogi. I was very, very fascinated by the book. And for me, it seemed like a different world. And the possibilities that were mentioned in the book seemed literally out of this world. So that was my entry point into, understanding what is a little more esoteric, you may say, in for people to really understand, but at the same time very fascinating. And that was my first introduction to Kriya Yoga, or even the immortal the Babaji. And there are many stories that are there. Sometimes you don't know what is real and what is not, but that was my start. I did enroll into YSS in 2011, but because it was a home study course, and I was not really a professional yoga teacher back then, so I wasn't in the most disciplined state. Um, as in, I was extremely disciplined, say for 6 months, and then I fell off the wagon majorly, completely changed direction. And yeah, so yeah, I went in an extremely like polar opposite to what Babaji or YSS would stand for. So yeah,
So that was your first time visiting this cave? No.
yes, when I saw you at the cave, that was my first time. Actually, I got to know about this through my sister. My sister is part of another spiritual community, and they visit the cave very often. And while I was in Uttarakhand, while I was traveling, I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to visit. Just wanted to see, what would interest me. And then, given that I told them that I want to, find some space in my life to actually sit and meditate, because that is not something that I found or took time out for ever since I started teaching full time. Ironically, that goes out of the window, and then the teaching becomes mechanical, and you're trying to deliver what people want, and then that kind of drains you, and you lose the point of why you are doing this in the first place. So that was why you recently. That happened to me over the past couple of years, I would say, in terms of trying to grow a business of yoga is very different to the. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with building a business per se, but you cannot feel disconnected from yourself, and you need to go to that source of connection often enough.
Yes. It's a hard, not hard is not the word maybe, but the in today's time, and we can go this into this later because I know many individuals, especially who are going further deeper and deeper into this journey on with themselves, of finding the balance between the spiritual and the material while they are working with the spiritual in the material, right? Like that balance of keeping the karmas clear, keeping the money journey with the money around it clear and harmonious without making it commercial, but keeping the business intact. Like this kind of balance of the spirit and the matter with the business world, because the whole spiritual path is quite opposite in many ways of this whole progress of the capitalistic system, right? But because it's not linear, it's a very spirally journey. You can be like here and then down and then this and then that, and then internally it's you're managing, you're observing, you're evolving, and the evolution is not linear always. It's like very spirally. But then when you are managing a business, it's more linear. So then multidimensional linear working together, it's like constantly churning balance, right? Finding that balance between the two. So first is, how do you do that when if you go through periods of disconnection with yourself, and the whole essence is teaching something that is to bring people into connection, right? So how do you balance it? I know there's no perfect answer for it because it's a constant journey of it. I mean, everybody's trying to do that, So I think a answer around this, or a reflection around this, would assist, because you've been doing this for many years, and I mean, we saw in COVID like how COVID just made everything so exponential, and then there's so many teachers came out in like few years time, but like it just became too much, right? Amplified spirituality industry, like megalithic industry. So now how do we, with all that has happened, which with acceptance and grace, to keep that authenticity alive in your work while also keeping the connection alive in yourself and the whole thing? Like, how do you do it, and what's your take on it?
Sometimes I do it well, sometimes I fail at it. So, what really helps is, and I've noticed this, the time when I was up there, literally, when I would think about my life here in Goa, it would literally feel like I'm looking down. Like when I was up in Uttarakhand, I was looking down at my life and everything that is happening every day, like so many thoughts that are coming in our mind to keep this going, to keep this running, to how do you, teach what is needed, and how do you at the same time, because you're not really a service provider as a yoga teacher. You may be so in some way, but you're a teacher, and that is something I think sometimes we ourselves don't feel worthy of that title. That it's such a grand word, right? And at the same time, there's also judgment that you sense from other people, and there's a lot of that goes on. That, but then that needs to be cleared out every day. And what helps is practice. I mean, whatever we may say, how I keep my how I stay connected is through practice, and it's not just practice, it's the right practice at the right time, and it's also engaging externally with the right people. Sometimes you may feel that you are being too picky, or you may feel that you are being too that's why they say satsang is needed, to help you, to inspire you, because it's not easy if you don't have it. It's not the easiest to find that in Goa, to be very honest, because the attitude to a spiritual practice is very different in Goa.
Goa is a different
Yeah,
vortex
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's different. Like even if you try,
based in Goa.
I'm based in Asagao. So the thing is, I'm originally Goan in the sense that my parents are also from Goa.
Okay.
So,
Catholic Goan or Hindu?
Konkani Hindu Goan.
From Asagao area or somewhere else?
So my dad is from Ponda, which is near all the temples you've been near. And my mom was from. She grew up in Margao, but our family home is now in Donapal. So through COVID, I lived there, and I wanted to come this side because it's just such a confusing place, even as a space, Goa, because it's seasonal and in some way it is.
You're born and raised in Goa?
No, I was born in, I was just born in Goa, raised in Bombay, Oman, Saudi Arabia, the UK. We were growing up, we were traveling.
Yeah.
And then finally the family came back, has been living in Goa for 20 years. 20 years back, 22 years back, I think we came back, yeah. And post that, I went to Bombay and yes, I was in a very different field. I was a fashion journalist, stylist for 8 to 10 years. And parallel to that, my yoga journey began. So it wasn't like some abrupt, even though I did keep that part of me very secret and sacred.
Started
But
slowly and then, yeah.
and also growing up, my father was a meditator, and
Right.
not like we meditated then, my sister and I, but we could hear this. These are the patterns that you hear.
Then the family.
There in every member, like
Yeah.
possibly.
Right.
So that helps.
Of course.
Really.
Yeah. So we'll come to Goa later because Goa is another ballpark thing. But you're running a physical studio and online as well.
So I'm currently running an online studio, and studio in the sense that I conduct sessions online. But a physical studio in terms of I did take physical sessions at Mojigao in Asagao, which is where there's lots of people coming in all the time. And I had a great season last year. But this year, I didn't choose to do that because I wanted to find something more substantial for myself that I could see myself growing for a long time and that gave me more stability. And that is something that I'm looking for in Goa right now. And I also teach with Elsewhere. Have you heard of Elsewhere?
I know all the places. I'm surprised we haven't met yet.
Yeah, yeah, we haven't met. Yeah, that's because I don't get out that often either. That where you
I don't blame you. Yeah, go after sometimes. Feels it's just become so chaotic now.
Yeah, where are you based?
I've based different places. I'm kind of actually transitioning out of Goa now. So yeah, I've lived in South Goa for a few years. I did Mandrim area for 3, and then last was I moved to East Goa, Aldona area.
Where?
Aldona.
Aldona. Okay.
Then South, North, East. So I've been active. I was full power active. So I think I got a deep. I mean, it was many things that happened for me to be like choosing even to kind of move out of Goa as a base. Uh, but I had a lot of deep experiences in Goa. Writing wise and everything, and it's a crazy place. It's a really crazy.
Yes.
It's
So if you're writing, if you want that quiet and inspiration, you could. It's not a bad place to be in.
yeah, but it's become very chaotic. I feel also now
Yeah.
it's become so commercialized. Like crazy levels of commercialization very fast. I think that was a very big change. That I mean, it happened everywhere, but like really visible in Goa, like really, really visible. So that was very interesting to see. And I mean, Goa has as a vortex. It's always changing. Permanence is something that is very visible in Goa. So I recently finished a book actually, which is like fiction book, but 70 to 80% based in Goa. So I think my journey with Goa was a bit about that as well. Like that, I wrote several books in Goa, and You know, it's the place I based myself the longest as an adult, or even like even till my since my 10 years old, because I lived in boarding school for a long time. So I had a lot of attachment with Goa. So that, I think, coming to Babaji's cave was a journey I was doing few months till before that. Before that, I left Goa around Feb, and I went to Kumbh, and I did many journeys till I could arrive to Babaji's cave, which was supposed to happen for years, you know. So it hadn't happened for years, but it happened when it was meant to. So it was a big detachment journey for me, Goa. Really, like I was so attached to the whole Goa story, Goa everything. But yeah, it's been interesting to now just kind of observe things. And I want to ask you, like, uh, what's your relationship with Goa? Like, I know it changes as well, but what's your relationship with Goa?
So my relationship with Goa is different to a lot of people because it's home, but it's not been home growing up. It's been home as an adult, and especially through COVID, because that's the longest I lived with my parents at home. Before that, I would just be in and out, or I've stayed on a yoga retreat that I was teaching at. So lately, I feel a little more grounded, but I've also always found um, it a very complex experience, a complex relationship, and there's an added element. But yeah, so I really sometimes don't understand because through the season I may feel different, you know. Like I would feel very connected to a place, and then after I went to the cave, something has just changed. I don't know what. I don't even know what it is, and suddenly I'm not feeling any, you know.
It's hard to put it into words.
Yeah, it's not like a positive or a negative feeling. It's just a different. Like people say, miracles happen to them after going to. No, no miracle has happened to me, but it's in fact a series of unfortunate events also. I can say have happened, but I can't really do anything about it. You know, in terms of
Kind of arriving in a not state but stream that is more kind of like divine neutrality kind of space.
yes, I can say that. Perhaps yes, but I do feel the call to be initiated now. So
Initiated into what?
into the Kriya. So that is what I'm looking at, like a proper one this time, even if it means going back to the previous one. But now I have more sense to stick with it. Um, yeah. So I was reading quite a bit, and but at the same time not going into that hole because you know I don't want to. I don't want it to be a solo journey anymore.
What do you mean?
That's why I'm looking for an initiation with people who would be able to understand and help you navigate both the worlds of the material.
You're looking for a community as well, along with.
Yeah, like a more genuine community, not a pseudo community.
Do you think there's a lack of a genuine community in Goa?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think is the reason for that? Because what I have realized is that Goa is more individualized, even in this community sense kind of thing. It's very individualized, right? And the community thing there is, it's not, I don't want to say the word superficial. It's not necessarily superficial, but it's just very unique to Goa, as in because it's such a seasonal place, because it's such a complex place. It's hard to put it into words because there's so many Goas within Goa, you know, like Asagao to Mandrem to South Goa to Aldona to Panje, with different realities, different people, vortexes. Every season is different. It's constantly changing. So it's hard to put it into words because it's impermanent. It's like best example of impermanence, right? Your circles are changing, people are changing. But then this something about Goa, you think it lacks. Okay, let's say it lacks that authentic spiritual community. But what does that mean, and why is that?
So I feel like a place like, for example, I feel it's even easier to find this in Bombay, like in a city or Delhi, as opposed to Goa.
Why is that?
I feel, firstly, let's speak about the kind of people and the culture that people come from. The local Goans, they have their way of being, and it's pretty much divided into the Catholic and the Hindu,
Yeah.
and also Goa was very small up until a few years ago. It's only now that Indians from other parts of India have decided to make it home. So before it was the locals and the foreigners who would come. And
He also came more seasonally.
yes, seasonally, and also the reason why the reason why people would come to Goa was for freedom, whether that meant freedom through a night out or freedom through drugs. So that is the narrative that's been there,
Yes.
that has held people, the tourist community that come to Goa. So that narrative still in some way exists. It just kind of shifts because of more awareness of whatever is going on. Also, people didn't really come to Goa to explore spirituality. You didn't really come to Goa to meet someone who's born and raised here, or there's a temple here. Like, people do visit, they do their temple runs, and especially the locals, but it's more in the ritualistic sense also.
Yes.
So, apart from a few yogis who have come here to do the practice in a space that is quiet and undisturbed, that is not the reputation that Goa has had over the past
Yes.
2 decades, I would say.
More than that, I would say.
Yeah. So it's kind of divided, like a place like Himachal or Uttarakhand or even a city. There is sort of a one unifying energy for a place, and it's that unifying energy within which you can find your own differences and your own communities, which makes it a little easy. Over here there is cultural differences, there's differences in terms of the intention that people come to Goa with, and also in the name of being free spirited, everyone has an opinion on what spirituality is. I mean, everyone is entitled to an opinion,
Yes.
but it's like, this is what it means to me, so this is my truth. And there are 1,000 people out there who have their own truth, but that's not how it was. That's not how it is. There is subjective reality. There are subjective truths, but I mean, then you can just be a lost person, lost for the hiring other.
Lost soul.
Yeah,
The thin vortex of lost souls. Pirates. And pirates.
and that's okay. I'm not judging in the sense that it's not me looking down on anyone.
No, I mean we are part of it. So
Ye-
you won't look down. We're looking eye to eye.
Yes. So that's been the complex part.
It's in my experience, I have found it to be. I don't want to use the word hard, but in my journey, I can say, like it was. Yeah, if I look it from an observatory point of view, like Babaji Cave kind of point of view, that it was a place I was sent to for 6 years to do my deep tapasya, where all my distractions, infatuations, like whatever shadows or things that could distract me, like energetically. It's a challenging place, actually.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging place. Or
How did you go about, if I may know, if I may understand? How
I mean, what I can share. I mean, it's a vast subject actually, and that's why I kind of ended up a book kind of came out of it because and it's a book that brings maybe 10% of that to light because it's, as you said, it's very complex. It's very hard to explain it to an outsider, number one, and the ones who live there and understand it, they understand it but are able to not talk about it. They just understand it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they all understand it, but it's hard to put words to all of it because it is really a vortex. It's like an energy vortex that is very unique. In my experience, it really tested me in many ways, many deep ways. It gave me a lot of gifts, yes, but it brought up like karmically. I felt it was my karmic burning ground.
Cleansing.
Yeah, like burning ground, cleansing the burning ground. It was a lot of burning happened for me. A lot of experiences which you look from. If you look from a dualistic point of view, it's like, whoa, what was that? But from a non-dualistic point of view, it was just burning. Like my shadows, my dark side. I think my dark side came out in ways that I didn't even know existed. So that was something that I think for me was the journey of Goa to really uh, uh, find peace with, and you get lost, man. Like it was lost in this. Uh, I feel like, I mean, there are levels of it, right? Like some people like really lost. It's like really lost, as in they don't even know what is reality anymore. Like ones who are just tripping on psychedelics all the time or just anything and everything. They don't know what reality is anymore. So there's that level. I never went to that level, but
It's good.
thankfully, gracefully. But but I know people who have been there, and it's like you get to really see how what you said, like people have this truth. Everybody has their own truth. Everybody's on a journey of truth, but it's really like a purging ground for so many. And what you said, like Goa it stands for freedom, and now everybody's coming there for freedom. Now everybody's freedom is different. Like their journey of that is different. Now you meet everybody on different layers of that journey. I don't want to say levels because it creates hierarchy, but layers.
Correct.
If it's a spiral, you're meeting constantly people on different spirals in that spiral that you're also in, right? Everybody trying to go towards the source. But like there's a lot of spiraling happening in Go, is what I feel. Where and people are getting staying in the spiral, just in different forms. And this is where I think that that authentic kind of grounding or spiritual communities where you have this sense of like you are purging, you are karmically releasing, but then you're growing, as in you're not in the spirals anymore. Like you're releasing your karmas, like really releasing. I think you can get stuck in Goa in that sense. I feel like either like grace hits you or, because there's some really mystical things that also happen in Goa. Like it really brought me to my knees in many ways. Like it really collapsed. My ego really was broken down in Goa. And I think only Goa could do that to me. I feel that's why I was.
Yes, everyone has a place like that. I mean, that there is no reason for it's your. You were meant to come here, and you were meant to do that only over here. That could only happen here. So
Totally.
I had I had this experience maybe 15 years ago, but for me that place very strangely was when I went to study to Milan in Italy. Who would think that something so disconnected like Milan is seen as uh, like you don't really think of spirituality when you think of a place like that. Yes. So for me, that was where it all began, and there is no reason. It could be
2008, you mean then? This is
2009 and 10. I was there. So
when you had a big death awakening kind of experience.
I had like it's like some curtains were open and there were different stages like in 2020 2015 through another practice and another type of experience was open to me. So since then I have not had any you can say it's all been mostly about integrating. It's not been that
That was like your big one, and since then it's been integration.
2015, yeah. Post that, it's been mostly integration, and that's the boring stuff, the hard work that you have to do. it's that fascination angle of it. But I did meet a couple of people who reiterated the importance of a practice and doing the same thing for a long period of time, and then you will get to that next level. So that is the truth. That really is what it is. And after all of these years of study of texts of philosophy, you want to go by not the book because you want to go by the book, but because it is literally science. It is a scientific methodology that's been propounded by, say, uh, Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. So you can't really run from it. You have to follow it.
Do you think like Goa saying this? This is interesting you're saying this because what I gathered, and this is a worldwide trend but very visible in Goa, is that people are running away from this, the integration and embodiment part.
Yeah.
It's like constant chasing.
Yeah, because it's not fun. It's the I mean, you can try to have fun along the way, and you have to make sure that you do, because otherwise it can be a depressive space also.
Yeah.
And I try to be careful of that. You have to understand what are your realities. Am I a monk? Am I a householder? Where am I going with this? And what would I like materially? Like choose a path and then make sure it kind of fits in with the reality that you have chosen to live. So that clarity also I got on my trip, in terms of what is the reality that you want to create and what is the path that you really want to follow. I mean, you can't be in between. After a certain point, you can't be in between.
Yes.
And that and in fact, if you're in between, if you're like on the fence, or just avoiding taking a step for too long, it can retard your progress. You can go to a stage or a place that was worse off than when you, say, started out. And you experience all these things yourself, within yourself, in terms of how you feel, in terms of whether you're feeling good every day, whether you're feeling inspired, whether your moods are kind of stable, whether you're going into an overtly depressive space, lonely, boredom, all these emotions that we try to escape and that are inevitably a part of the process.
Yeah.
And so my interest in the mental health aspect has been very deep because of my own, experience. And at the same time, I'm studying also from the lens of this 3D reality and what science has brought into the world through Western psychology, and through making sense to what is your everyday life, even when you're doing your practice, and how to not create that distinction. Ultimately, how to not be too in your head about your own spirituality. You know, y- how to not create like an identity out of it also.
Well, this is the integration and embodiment part where you come here. So now this is interesting because I think you could really shed light on this specifically for. I mean, I'm taking Goa as an example, but this applies to many people, especially living in such vortexes, because these vortexes are taking people on 70 like high, very like to anything. I'm not just saying because of substances, but because of breathworks or ice bath. I don't know, just myriads of explorations of consciousness, right? So they're all going 70, like shooting off into space. Now, what you are sharing is very important because the 3D reality, we are here, like the physical reality, we are here. And we are here till we are not here, which is, till we leave the body, right? So that is not our choice, like in the ultimate sense. I mean, if you are a heightened yogi like Babaji, yeah, maybe, but we're not there yet. So now integrating this with this is a very important aspect, I feel, in what you're saying is maintaining that, emotional harmony, balanced state of mind in Goa or outside of Goa. But now, Goa specifically, I think people may struggle with this more.